Alright, we're on step 8, the bodice lining. It says to stitch the bodice front lining to the bodice back lining at shoulders. Press under 5/8 inch on the lower edge of lining. Trim pressed under edge to 3/8 inch. I've stitched the bodice front lining to the bodice back lining at the shoulders, and now I'll just press as sewn. And then I'll open it up. And press that open. Alright, it says to press it to 5/8 inch, so I have this measuring gauge. I'm folding up the fabric to where I can get 5/8 inch folded up. I press it and I measure and press as I go. Ooh, hot. I turn the steam off of my iron while I finish that up. But now I also finished the back, and I've got my measuring gauge here, and I'm going to do the 3/8 because it says to trim it down to 3/8. So I just put that on here and just measure and cut. Now we're pinning the lining to the bodice, right sides together, matching notches, centers, and seams. Stitch the neck and armhole edges, trim seam allowances. So now I'm pinning the lining to the bodice. I've got this edge here lined up. And I'll just do this matching everything all the way around. This is what it looks like all pinned together. I've got the sleeves are tucked towards the inside, and the ties are tucked on the inside as well. So it wants me to sew the armholes and the neck hole. So I'm just starting with my armhole here, and I'll just turn fabric as I sew. And like before, pull the needles out before I run over them. Now, this part you want to be really precise and cautious about. You want to go slow because there's so much fabric here. You want to make sure everything's really nice and flattened out so that you're not going to be sewing over any fabric that's like folded underneath or creating a crease, because then you would have to take that seam out and redo it, which isn't the most fun thing. This is after the armholes and the neck hole are sewn up. Now I just need to trim the seam allowances. So I'm going to cut this pretty close to the stitch line. Oh, that's a bulky spot. There we go. Need to sharpen my scissors. There's a guy that comes to Joann's in North Dallas, and he'll sharpen your scissors for $5 on Tuesdays, so I need to get down there. Okay, so in addition to, I'll finish trimming that, but in addition to trimming it really short, you can also take some clips right all the way up by the stitching line, and this really makes a huge difference into how that seam will lay, because since it's a curved seam, unless it's clipped close and then also has some notches in it, then it just doesn't lay like you would expect it to. So that's really important to do. Alright, so the next thing is to understitch. This is the back of the bodice, and I will just open it up and I will iron this actually a bit. I'm pressing the seam allowance towards the lining. Okay, and actually, when I was clipping, I clipped through a spot on there, so I need to fix that. But I'm going to fix that, and then I'm going to press this. You can't go all the way because you'll kind of get stuck as you get closer and closer to the sleeve. But we will do as much as we can, just like the directions say. So I've got it under the machine. I'm just doing a straight stitch, making sure to stitch on top of that tiny little seam allowance that we left. Alternatively, you could probably do this before you trim the seam allowance. But you might have to clip it because it can be hard to maneuver these corners. So I'm just, okay. So I understitched as far as I could, and I got to right about here. This is step 10, and the next thing we're going to do is turn right sides out, pulling back through shoulders towards front. Press. So pulling the backs through the shoulder means to reach in here and get the back side and start pulling it through like this. You're going to do that on both sides. So I've pulled the backs through, and now this is what I've got. One of the things, one of the reasons why we understitch is because it kind of teaches or kind of encourages the fabric to roll towards the inside, and that way, that which was the opposite of it rolling to the sides that's going to be shown, because we don't want the lining to show. We want for the lining to kind of be tucked in. So here's the neck hole, and I'm just going to be pressing the lining towards the inside. We're on step number 11, and it says to open out pressed under edges of lining at sides with right sides together, pin bodice front to bodice back at sides, matching armhole seams, then pin front lining to back lining. Stitch in a continuous seam. Okay, so I'm at a point where I'm going to need to take out these extra pins that I had used, and I'm going to be using a small safety pin, and then I'm going to redo the basting stitch right across the top here. So what they're saying to do is, this is my armhole, this is my sleeve, here's a little bit of my sash tie-in that's sticking out. They want me to take this side and this side and match those edges together, and then tuck that sleeve under there, take this and this and match those together and pin that straight across, and then we'll sew that together. Whenever we're done sewing it together, the effect will be that we have the armhole like this, and this is what's getting sewn together. It's just pinned together right now. So I'm just about done with sewing this side seam here, but where I put the safety pin in is actually right in the middle of where I need to be sewing. So I'm going to lift my needle, take it out my fabric, and just remove this safety pin. I did rebaste the sash, so it will be fine. And I'll just finish sewing down this side seam now. So step 12 says to turn the lining down, press, turn lower edge of lining to inside again. I have got these, I just wanted to show you this. I've got the edge sewn in. I don't have it pressed yet, but on the next video I will have it pressed, and then we'll come back and work on the skirt and zipper.